Maybe you've felt this before. If you have, comment the number 1 below. Just to see how many people have been in that exact moment. Someone says something. Not harsh enough for you to get angry immediately. But not subtle enough for you to truly ignore. Maybe it happens in a meeting. At a family dinner. In a group of friends. Or just during an ordinary conversation, and suddenly, all eyes are on you. And in those few short seconds, your heart drops. Your face gets hot. Your mind goes blank. You want to say something sharp. Something smart. Something strong enough to take control of the moment again. But then, nothing comes. Or worse, you say something rushed. And immediately after, you wish you had stayed silent. But the most painful part is not the moment itself. It's the hours after. When everything has already ended, but inside your mind, it still hasn't. I should have said this. I shouldn't have stayed quiet. I should have responded differently. And then you realize, what hurts the most is not just what the other person said. It's the feeling that you became small in that moment. But here's what most people are never taught. The way you've always reacted in situations like this is exactly why you keep losing. Not because you're weak. Not because you're too slow. Not because the other person is stronger. But because you're playing the wrong game. Because people who intentionally try to embarrass you usually do not actually care what you say. They care about your reaction. They want to see confusion. They want to see you lose control. They want to see that moment where you destroy your own image for them. And if you give them exactly that, even if you think you just fought back brilliantly, the truth is, you're still playing their game. But to understand that, you first need to understand something even more important. Why do they do it in the first place? Imagine this. A child in a classroom intentionally ruins another child's drawing. And right after that, they don't look at the paper. They look around. To see if anyone laughs. To see if anyone noticed. Why? Because the real goal was never the drawing. It was the attention. Adults do the exact same thing. The only difference is, they do it with more subtle words. More polished. And with better timing. The person who just mocked you in a meeting. The person who dropped a comment that made the whole dinner table go silent. The person who deliberately made you the center of an uncomfortable moment is not always doing it because you were wrong. A lot of the time, they do it because your presence makes them uncomfortable. Maybe you're doing well. Maybe people are listening to you more. Maybe you just said something that made them feel smaller. And the fastest way for someone to feel bigger is to try to make someone else feel smaller. Remember this. Truly strong people do not need to publicly put others down to prove their worth. Only people who are missing something inside need an audience. But even when you understand that, it still hurts. Doesn't it? Because in that moment, you are not thinking, oh, they're probably just insecure. No. What you feel is embarrassment, anger, confusion, and sometimes self-doubt. So here's the idea that changes everything. Not every comment that hurts you is the truth. Very often, it simply touches a fear you were already carrying inside. And that is why it feels so heavy. Not because the other person has power, but because their words touched a place where you are not fully solid yet. If a stranger can say a few words and ruin your entire day, then the problem is not entirely them. That may be uncomfortable to hear, but it is the truth. And this truth is not meant to make you feel worse. It is meant to give your power back. Because if your emotional state is completely controlled by other people, you will always live in defense mode. Always afraid of being judged. Always afraid of being embarrassed. Always afraid that someone will hit your weakest point. And that is one of the most exhausting ways to live. But even if you understand all of this, there is still one mistake almost everyone makes. A mistake that makes the situation worse immediately. The biggest mistake almost everyone makes is reacting immediately. Someone says something uncomfortable, and your first instinct is to fire back. To say something sharp, something fast, something strong enough to restore your dignity. Or the opposite, you go completely silent. Look down. Force an awkward smile. Pretend nothing happened. But either way, both are emotional reactions. And emotional reactions are exactly what the other person is waiting for. Because if someone wants to pull you into a fight, and you step into it immediately, then from that moment on, they've already won part of the game. Now, they are no longer testing your boundaries. They are controlling your emotions. And that is the dangerous part. A lot of people think, if I don't react, that means I'm weak. But the truth is, losing control is one of the clearest signs of weakness. Because when you react too quickly, you are not responding from reason. You are responding from embarrassment, anger, an ego that just got hit. None of those are good advisors. So here is the first thing. Pause. That's it. 1 breath. 2 seconds. Maybe 3. It sounds simple. But that pause is what separates emotionally mature people from people controlled by their emotions. Because when someone deliberately tries to embarrass you, your body reacts before your mind does. Your heart beats faster. Your muscles tighten. Your brain switches into defense mode. Fight or flight. And that is why you say things you regret. Or freeze completely. That short pause is how you take back control. Not because you are weak, but because you are choosing. There is a huge difference between being silent because you've been crushed and being silent because you are in control. They look similar, but the energy is completely different. People can feel that. But here is where many people misunderstand. They think, okay, so I should just stay silent. No. Because sometimes, you do need to speak. But not in the way most people think. A lot of people believe the best response is a devastating comeback. A line so sharp it silences the other person. A line that makes the whole room go wow. But the moment you enter a verbal battle, you've already accepted their rules. And a game like that always requires 2 players. Sometimes, real power is saying less than the other person expects. For example, that's interesting. Or, we can come back to that later. Or simply, I understand. And then continue. No frustration. No long explanation. No trying to prove anything. Just calm. Just grounded. Just as if their comment was not powerful enough to pull you away from your center. And here's why it works. First, it shows the entire room that you understand exactly what just happened. Second, it shows the person who attacked you that they did not get the reaction they wanted. Third, it builds the image of someone who cannot be easily dragged down to someone else's emotional level. But even then, there is still a bigger question. Why can one sentence from someone keep you awake all night? This is the part many people do not want to face. Because it forces you to be honest with yourself. If someone says, "You're not good enough," and something inside you flinches, ask yourself, why? If someone mocks your appearance, your job, the way you live, your finances, and you carry those words with you all night, ask yourself, why? Not to blame yourself, but to understand what is really happening. Because not every comment has the same power. Some words, you hear once and instantly move on. But other words, hit something much deeper. Why? Because sometimes, somewhere inside, there is still a part of you that is not fully certain about yourself. Not because what they said is true, but because you have not yet built enough evidence for yourself. And that is why real confidence is not built through powerful words. It is built through action. Through the moments you keep promises to yourself. Waking up on time when no one is forcing you. Doing the hard thing when no one is watching. Finishing the thing you have been putting off for months. Having the conversation you keep avoiding. Every time you do that, you create new evidence about who you are. Not through words. Through action. And action convinces the brain far more than affirmation ever will. That is why some people hear criticism and forget it immediately. Not because they are emotionless, but because they have already built a strong enough foundation inside. Those words no longer hit a soft spot. And here is the final truth. Not everyone deserves a reaction from you. Remember that. You do not owe your reaction to everyone. Your calmness is not weakness. Your silence is not defeat. Refusing to step into someone else's game does not mean you are weak. It simply means you refuse to play a game that is too small for you. Maybe someone once tried to embarrass you. Maybe recently. Maybe a long time ago. But that moment does not define you. Their words do not define you. What defines you is what you choose to do after that moment. If this video spoke to you, and from today forward you choose not to let other people so easily control your emotions, comment the number 9. Not for me, but as a reminder to yourself that not everyone has the right to disturb your peace. And if you think this video was worth your time, subscribe. Because in the next video, we're going to talk about the real reason some people seem to target you more than others. And how to make them stop.